Yeah, that's good. Okay, I just Shinsari has Hey, I just want to go over just to clarify. It wasn't 100% clear. Whatever. Kol Beis Dira Sheyotze Me'Ha'ir. Any Beis Dira house, whatever it is that goes from outside the city, that's sits outside the city. Im Haya Beino Levein Ha'ir Shivim Ama V'Shnei Shlishim. If there's only Shivim Ama, which is a Shutzela Beis HaSayim Merubos, that's the measurement of Beis HaSayim, of a Karpaf. A part of Mizeh. Then that's considered part of the city. You push the border out to this house, and you go Apayim Amma in this direction only, from this house. Some say you don't start from the house, and what you do is you take a chut and you go neged abayis v'chikim misham shivim ana v'shirayim u'maschilim chei chol makom shemodim. The Ramah says, I didn't say it clearly enough yesterday. The Ramah says that what you do is you go ahead and you take a chut and you measure out 70 amma from the wall, and then you start Apayim Amma from there, meaning that he holds that every single time. It doesn't make a difference the house is there or not. The Lashon is a little bit confusing, but the Ramah is saying is basically this sheet holds you always give Shivim Amma to a city outside their walls, which is a karpaf, a little bit of extra makom or whatever, and you always do that whether it happens or not. The Be'er says, it seems like Rov Deya seems to go like the first day. The Oila wants to be makel like the Ramah, you can be makel, but in a situation where there's no house there, that already he feels that he feels he shouldn't be makel like the Ramah. That if there's no house there, just every single time push it out 70 amos. It's only if there will be some sort of a house there. Vav hayabayis korv le'ir b'shivim amma. If there's a house, then shivim amma. By sheni korv le'bayis b'shivim amma. Another house, shivim amma away. By shlishi korv l'sheni b'shivim amma. V'chein amma halach kamiyami. If you went ahead and and there's a house going for the whole distance kamiyami, and the whole goes up the whole across the United States. I don't know, whatever. It's all considered like one city. And you always measure from the outside the Bayis Achrim. As long as it's an actual Beis Dira, not just like you stick a cardboard box, whatever, it has to be an actual Beis Dira of Arba, B'chein Beis Knesses, Sheish Beis Dira, or if it's a shul that has a Beis Dira, let's say a guest house, or the Rav sleeps there, or something like that. L'chazanim, or for the Rav, like they have by Chasina, the Shtibel, they have the Rav sleeps there, whatever. Or Beis Avodas Elilim, Sheish Beis Dira l'choneim, and like here in Beit Shemesh you have, unfortunately, you have that monastery on the hill above Beit Shemesh, so that you can actually use, if you want to take a hike out that way, you can, you have to measure the tchum, if it's outside or not, but you can use that as considered a house to go ahead and to measure the tchum from, because they sleep there. Beis Dira, or if it's Eitza, or like a treasure house, whatever, that has a house for a guard. Gesher, Va'kever sheish behem Beis Dira, and if you have a gesher, a bridge with a toll booth, I don't think would be considered because people don't live there, but it has like a place people, something like the guard sleeps. Kever, or if you have a 3-walled structure without a roof, yesh behem arba amos, that would be considered. That would be considered, meaning that there was a Beis Dira, not that you set up l'chachil, so that's not a house, but there was a house and it got and the roof caved in, whatever. So that would still be considered enough to push the tchum out to there. V'shalosh mechitzos right. Abayis aboni b'yam. If you have a little, let's say, a lighthouse on a small rock outside outside in the harbor or whatever, and someone lives there, so that would also be, you can also push the tchum from there. Ushtei mechitzos sheyesh aleim tikra umaziva, or you have two mechitzos and a tikra that people sheyesh that people will sleep there. That you have that it's somewhat again, we're talking about a case not that someone set up an encampment, a homeless encampment or something like that, but actually that's actually an actual structure which broke. It's just these are different tsuras of things that broke, that were based dira. Umara sheish binyan al piha. Amara has some sort of construction in front. People live there, but they had put like some sort of structure in front, like they have down Beit Jubrin, south of Beit Shemesh. They have it's like caves with like the houses on the outside, and they lived inside the caves. All these things, if the Toch Shivim Amma are mitzaref to the city.
You saying that a homeless camp is not
No, well, I'm saying if someone to put up two cardboard boxes and put a wall and they put a thing, these are temporary structures. It's not about specifically it was a house that got destroyed. Not that the chachila, it's not a house, it's not a base zira. If you went, as only the Mishabura says only if it was a house that was, and then the walls, it's just like you had before, but it was missing a roof, so too it's missing two walls. The walls crumbled.
So is living there in a tent?
So a tent. It has to be something which is a base dira. I don't know if a tent is considered a base dira because these things that's not a proper structure. If I think it has to be, if there's a motorhome there or something, that could be that would work. Someone parks a motorhome there for Shabbos, could be that would work. But I don't know. I don't know if a tent is considered a proper structure. Yeah, but there were. Nowadays, a tent is not. I mean, yes, I tent in the city you go to, you can see people live in tents kavod. But also funny. You measure out from the whole city. Right, and then you go from there. Tikra, two mechitzos without a tikra, the house got really destroyed, and there's two mechitzos and a roof. Even if people will sleep there, that's not considered a base dira. Gesher v'akever beis hakneses zililim ha'yitzvah she'ein behem base dira. Any of these structures, or the shul, or or a base of a zara, or they're just structures that warehouse, things like that. People don't live there, so then there's no guard there, so then that's also not considered. If you have a bore, all these cases of people who's trying to live there, you have some sort of crack in the ground, or a cave, something, whatever, or a shoivach, treehouse, something like that. Or you have a house on water. They're not mitzarif. When the mice says, so the question of the motorhome is the same thing as the bayish b'svina. It's all kavia, because the question what that means, it's not kavua. If it's on the border, I guess sometimes it moves back and forth. I guess if it was anchored, if it's anchored to the floor, maybe that would be okay. I don't know, but if the problem is it's something that it keeps on moving back and forth, doesn't mean that it goes away. It doesn't stay in one spot.
Why does the monastery work?
Because it's a base dira. Doesn't have to be used.
It's not a base for the shalem.
It is.
It's a base tefillah, a base tefillah, a tifla, whatever. But but since people live there, it's considered their makel is considered that part of the city, whatever. The way the Orach Chaim says that a base medrash is considered a base dira, because people learn there and eat there, and the Lomdei Torah sit and they sometimes they sleep, they nap there. So he says that Beis Medrash is considered Beis Dira. I guess obviously yeshiva. Kol elu sheyitz behen ein mitzdarfim ima hagav im hayu shnei batim ke'elu neged ha'ir. Dinam ha'ir asur lekakeshes. If there are two Beis Diras on either side of the city sticking out, so then you consider it as if it's a keshes like we had before. You consider it like a U, and you don it accordingly. Zayin hayu shnei ayaros zu smul zu. There's two cities close to each other. Kufim Aleph Amma Ushlish. Now we're talking about over here not only two cities, but even two neighborhoods. If there's like there was a whole shiloh here in Orach Chaim between Aleph and Beis for many years. There still is, depending if an Erev works to go ahead and close everything, or it could be nowadays as more houses are closer. It depends. But it used to be they couldn't carry from one without Erev Techumin. They couldn't carry from one neighborhood to the other because there was a large open area. It was too big. There was a question whether you counted the taxi stand as a Beis Dira. I think that was a whole discussion. Or you don't. But if you have two neighborhoods with no houses in between, so then say it's an industrial zone. Also might be, I don't know. There's no Beis Dira there. If they're within meaning they give two karpas, two shivim amma, mashu, whatever, to each city outside. Then you get to Kuf Mimal 141 Amos Ushlish. Kadeshi Shivim Amma V'Shirayim Lazu V'Shirayim V'Shirayim Lazu. Chashuvim Shteim Kir Achas. Then they're considered one city, and then you can carry through that area. And Ninsis Kol Ir Mehem Haleches Es Kol Ir Ashniya V'Chutzala Apayim Amma. Then you can go ahead and you can carry. You can go ahead and not carry. Sorry, you can walk outside the edge of the city of Apayim Amma, the other side. And the wall of the city, which broke down in two directions. Zu connected zu is like a makom of foolish. Charvu abatin shebenehem akufim alav amo shlish, and there was a tornado went straight through the city and cut it in half. Dino kasasum, as long as there's 141 amos in the middle, that's sasum of a bais echad. Afilu garu harbe, if it's a mansion in the state, ein lo din ir, and the state does not have the din of a city. Even though, I remember my wife and I drove by in LA. There was a house in Bel Air. We think we drove by the wall. It was like 5-6 minutes driving along the edge of the estate. There's some very large estates out there. Achopanin doesn't have a din of a city. Ein lo din ir, losis lo shivim ama. It's a whole complex, and there's different houses, guest houses. That could be something different. But one big house, even if it's a castle or something, it's not considered a city. Therefore, it does not. It doesn't get shivim ama b'shirayim to connect it. If it's outside, if it's within from the wall, great. But if it's 140 amos from the city, it's not mitzaref.
How many houses do I need to be considered a city?
That's in three. I think it's 3 chatzeros. It's mentioned the 3 chatzeros, 3 houses, something like that. It's mentioned that's in the Gvul. That's in Batei Arachoma, what's considered a basic city. Hayu shlosha kfarim mishulashim. If there were 3 kfarim mishulashim in the shape of a triangular, and 2 and 1, a triangle. If between 2 of the outside ones there's more than there's less than a Apayim Amma, Mikan of Shnayim Chitzonim Reish Pegimel Amos Pachos Shlish. If there's 283, which is 141 Amos Pachos Shlish, Mevar Rocha Ve'ir Eshia Ben Kol Echa Mehem Uvein Kol Benem Tzai Kishatira or Yisai Kilu. If you look and if you look at it, if you would stand in front of the third city and you look straight, it's ki'ilu that they would be sitting 1, 2, 3, with kufim aleph u'shlish between, less than kufim aleph u'shlish between each side city. Harei shloshtan kimedina achas, morin lahem alpayim ama l'chol ruach, mechutz l'shloshtan, you can consider them all one city, and you can go ahead and you go ahead and you measure outside. Or who are if it's different neighborhoods with if they're in the Meshullash, it depends. Some say that you measure, you don't have to measure from you don't say rowing. You only say rowing for the Shnei Chitzonim. But it's only but the middle one you don't say it, so therefore the Tchum, it doesn't get the Tchum of the other two, it gets the Tchum since we say rowing, the Kilo would connect the three, but the middle one, it doesn't, since it's not really in between, it's on so then it doesn't connect, and you go the Tchum only from its own walls, not from the outside, not from the other cities, at least the other cities' walls. And since we say that Eruvin, the Mishavura says that Eruvin is a din d'Rabbanan, so therefore we go achar mekel. Let's say you have a city which sits on the side of a nachal, which in English is a wadi, or let's say a dry canyon. I don't know, depends what country you want to live in or whatever. It's a dry sharova iti hu yavesh. It's a canyon, a dry canyon, mishtamshim boy, and you usually use it, whatever they use it for, the city uses it for something. It only becomes, the water only goes there, when it rains. If there's a matzeva, a pedestal or a platform, which is the Amos wide, al sasa nachal, kadeshi aldo olev yishtamshu b'nachal. I guess it could be, even if it's deep, they want to use it to store stuff, or I don't know, whatever. Nimsa hanachal b'chlal here. Then the nachal is considered part of the city, even though water does run through it periodically. Umorin la alpayim ama misasa nachal asheni, and then you go ahead and you can measure alpayim ama from the other side of the nachal. V'yasa hanachal kulo b'chlal here. And then you have matzeva b'nuya b'tzida. It becomes part of the city because there's a matzeva, which is a kavua place to use this nachal. V'im lo haya mitzvasa nachal, v'im lo haya sham matzeva, if they didn't put in some sort of platform, ein modim lahem, you don't measure, elo mipesach vasehem, you only measure from the edge of the houses. Nimta nachal nimdan mina alpayim shelahem, then it gets measured part of the alpayim, and we'll see the next siman about how you measure if it's a ditch or whatever. It's not part of it doesn't become, it becomes a chutzah here. Yoshvei tzvifim, the hainish yoshim be'olim, she'oisim mehutzim v'arava. People who live in tzvifim, it's like a hut, and oilim she'oisim, that's some sort of hut, ve'ein lahem din ir. If you have a whole tent city, that's not considered a city. Lefichach ein modim lahem alpayim ama elam mipesach bateihem. Each person gets his own alpayim ama. Im ein lahem kamin hekef mechitza asara charitz asara bateihem. Unless they make like an encampment, which they put some sort of small wall around, or a ditch, whatever, to show that we're all together, like a caravan, something like that. Yesh sham shalosh chatzeros shel shnei batim kavuim shel even. This is your question. What makes a city is if there's 3 chatzeros of 2 batim kavuim shel even, which would make 6 houses. I mean, I don't know if just 6 houses on the street could be that work. I don't know. Oshel Nasarim Elu Oisim es Kulam Keva. It has to be a stone or wood that makes it Keva. V'yeshem din ir. Rabbim Oisim Noisin La Paim Amal L'Chavruch. You go ahead and you make it into a square, and you count the tchum from outside. Orach Hashar Ayaros. Let's say it's a city which there was a wall there, there was a fort or something like that, I don't know, and then they decide to turn into a city. There, since they go by the walls, like you said, if it's not hukuf ladira, then you go by the makom of the houses and out. Yash v'achar chukfa. But if like many cities, there's a city and they put a wall around it, modim la michal yotza, then you go from the wall. And of course, if the city was planned, there's just the construction, there's planned to have a wall, just to start with the houses and they got to the wall, that still means it's chukaf l'dir because that's how it was planned. Point over here is that it was, well, built the wall first in the city. Point of, depends, whatever. The point over here is that it was this ear without a wall, so you decided to put a wall up. Or, so then, that wall doesn't count, and like I mentioned, Yesh Omrim if you have an Erev, so you usually put the Erev after you build the city. So if you go from the Erev, you consider those walls, then you'd also be considered that Yoshua Yachra Chukva.
Like Bar Kappa, is it like the opposite or something like that? If it's Hukaf Ladira, means that the wall came first, right?
Hukaf Ladira, no, Hukaf Ladira, no, means the opposite. It's the same thing. Same thing. Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, the same thing. Shin Sarites. How do you measure the Tchum Ha'ir? Now, too, the idea I meant to ask and find out exactly what they do nowadays. But there used to be, they used the Chevel Shel Pishtan Shel Chamishim Ama. Lo Pachos Shunimtach V'Yoyser. You don't use anything Orach Yoyser. She'enu Nimtach Karori. Because by Pishtan, it stretches so it's exactly Chamishim Ama. I don't know nowadays if I meant to ask someone, does Erevin, if they use measuring, if they can just use a tape measure or laser even, whether that will work. It could be it would, I don't know. It seems to be if it's exact, the point of the pishtan, it has to be exact. Now also you can only do chamishim amma, so even still, so therefore I don't know if it wouldn't work to go ahead and just l'chora to go ahead and to just measure 2,000 amos. You have a satellite. I don't know. I'm not sure that would work. I have to speak to Erev maker to see how that works. But
markers as to where the phone finishes.
usually people don't go hiking. The only thing is having no game. People go hiking. I mean, and nowadays people don't usually. I mean, in camps, whatever people want to go hiking outside. So that's what they should. I mean, that's when. In general. I get, it's not so, it's not so common for people to leave to go out the edges of the city. Yesh nar lefanov, if there's a river, in front by the city, if it's within shivim v'chamesh ama, la'achar, so what do you do? Because you have to go ahead and measure 50 over, but the river itself, is the sub shivim v'chamesh ama. So then what do you do? So then what do you do? Because then the choser la'achorav after, so you go to the edge of the other side of you measure 50 amma. Choser la'achorav esim v'chamesh amma, esha chevel shel chamishim amma shalem ad hanar. So what do you do? You don't have to stand in the middle of the nar. What you do is you measure out, you take the 50 and you go to the end of the nar and you walk backwards so you get a clear and to the original point, so you get so then you get a clear measurement. 1 second, and then the Mishabura says it's only if the nar itself is 50 amos. You measured it from side to side, you have to, and it's 50 amos. So therefore, but if it's bigger and then you're just missing the space in between the 50, 25 and 50, so then you have to go ahead and you go to the nar and you go back, whatever. But, but if it's bigger, it's a little bit unclear how you figure out how to do it. He says, look in the Yerushalmi, it's a little bit unclear how to do it. Yasim achevel keneged libo. When they want to measure, they put the chevel by up of the person's chest. You have to chened b'chol kocha, and you stretch it out to its fullest. Lo, even though the elo keneged ha'ir, you measure. You start from the city. Afil yesh harim megeyos kenegda. Even if there's hills and mountains or valleys in front of it. Lo yelich v'kenegda b'tzida. Shehu Shehu Yasher Yindot Sham. Let's say there's a har for outside the city. There's there's mountains. If you go, 20, if you go 20 kilometers south, 20 miles south, it's flat over there. So I'm just going to go ahead and go over the flat area and measure straight over there, and it'll be much easier than I can figure out. Don't do that. You have to go from the wall, and when you hit, there was a way to measure when you hit hills and mountains and things. If you meet a shemadot sham, you have to just go straight. When you do hit a hill, if the slope is very vertical, so you take a stick of some sort, which is 4 amos long, and you hang a weight from the string with a weight that goes down to the bottom of the hill. Obviously, if it's a tall mountain, it doesn't work, but it might work partially. But whatever. Then, if it's within daled amo, if you have this daled amo stick and it hits the bottom, hits the ground, so then as ein tzarich limdoid hayirida v'aliyah even yesh misha b'rosho. Then if it's just like a hill, a straight hill with a peak, a small peak, so then you can just measure it. You can measure it straight, unless there's a place to stand on the top. There's some sort of, if it's just a peak, so then you don't need to. So then it's not. You can include it. But if there's no place to, it's all, that you only have to. If there's no place to stand at all, then you don't have to measure. It's not part of the har is not part of the measurement of the tchum. If there's a place to stand, meaning people can walk on the top, climb to the top and walk, so then you would have to go ahead. You don't have to. You measure the top, but you don't have to go ahead and include the slope. So it's kilo. We consider like a 90-degree slope. If there's a wall, right, and it's cool, you hit a wall, you don't have to go ahead and if it's like a fence, you don't have to measure the fence. Okay, it's 2 inches on top. You don't have to measure the fence. You just go to the other side of the fence and continue it through the fence, whatever. So this wall, if it's a really vertical hill, so then it would be considered like a fence, and it's not included in the measurement. However, if there's place on top to walk, then you include that in the measurement. Let's say that. Wait a minute. Maybe stop. Should we stop here? Yeah, let's stop here because this is one Indian, then we're going to go on to how you measure a mountain. Yeah.